Hercule Poirot and the Mystery of Golden Opera. Mask, Chapter 1. The Overture of Secrets. The Théâtre de l'Opéra gleamed under the Parisian twilight, its marble façade aglow with the promise of grandeur. On this evening of May 1st, 1925, the Opera House stood reborn after years of neglect, its doors flung wide for a gala to unveil a relic of legend, the Golden Opera Mask. Hercule Poirot, immaculate in his tailored evening suit, stepped from his carriage, his moustache twitching with anticipation. The invitation had been irresistible. A mystery, he sensed, was already afoot. The foyer buzzed with the elite of Paris, aristocrats in shimmering gowns, financiers with calculating eyes, and artists draped in bohemian flair. Crystal chandeliers cast a golden haze, and the air thrummed with the hum of anticipation. Poirot's sharp eyes scanned the crowd, noting the subtle tensions, a diva's forced smile, a patron's furtive glance. Mon Dieu, he murmured, how the human heart betrays itself before the curtain even rises. At the centre of the grand staircase stood the evening's centrepiece, the Golden Opera Mask, displayed on a velvet pedestal beneath a glass dome. Crafted in pure gold, its delicate filigree caught the light, evoking both beauty and unease. Its almond-shaped eye-holes seemed to watch the crowd, as if guarding secrets of its own. A placard proclaimed its history, a gift to the opera house in 1875 by an anonymous patron, rumoured to carry a curse that brought misfortune to its keepers. Poirot tilted his head, intrigued. A mask, he mused, is never merely a mask. The director of the opera, Monsieur Gustave Renaud, a wiry man with a nervous laugh, addressed the gathering. Tonight we celebrate not only art, but mystery, he declared, gesturing to the mask. This relic, unseen for decades, returns to inspire our new season. Yet, I must warn you, there are those who believe it should remain hidden. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Poirot's interest sharpened. A warning, however theatrical, often concealed truth. Among the guests, Poirot noted key figures. Madame Claire Duval, the prima donna, held court with a haughty air, her emerald gown drawing envious glances. Her rival, the young soprano Mademoiselle Sophie Leroux, lingered nearby, her demure smile masking ambition. Lord Reginald Ashford, a British financier and the opera's chief benefactor, stood aloof, his eyes fixed on the mask with unsettling intensity. And in the shadows, a stagehand moved with quiet purpose, his presence unnoticed by all but Poirot. As the orchestra struck the first notes of an overture, a liveried usher approached Poirot with a folded note. "For you, monsieur," he whispered. Poirot unfolded it, his expression unreadable. Scrawled in elegant script were the words, "The mask will vanish before the final act. Beware the phantom." Poirot's lips curved into a faint smile. "A challenge," he said softly, tucking the note into his pocket. "Very well. Let the performance begin." The crowd surged toward the auditorium, but Poirot lingered, his gaze returning to the mask. Its golden surface seemed to pulse with secrets, daring him to unravel them. Somewhere in this glittering throng, he knew, lurked a thief, or worse. With a final glance, he straightened his bow tie and followed, his little grey cells already at work. Chapter 2. The Phantom's Whisper. The auditorium of the Théâtre de l'Opéra enveloped Hercule Poirot in a cocoon of velvet and gold, its tiered balconies brimming with Paris's elite. The orchestra's overture had faded, replaced by the rustle of programs and the murmur of anticipation. Yet Poirot's mind lingered on the note now tucked in his breast pocket. The mask will vanish before the final act. Beware the phantom. Its audacity intrigued him, for audacity often masked desperation or genius. Seated in a private box, Poirot surveyed the crowd through his opera glasses, his little grey cells humming. A phantom, he mused, is but a shadow cast by a man. And shadows, they always lead to their source. His gaze settled on Madame Claire Duval, the prima donna, who stood centre stage, her voice soaring in a rehearsal aria. Her notes were flawless, yet her eyes darted to the wings, where Mademoiselle Sophie Leroux, the young soprano, watched with quiet intensity. Rivalry, Poirot noted, was a motive as old as art itself. The note's warning gnawed at him. Was it a prank, a distraction, or a genuine threat? He recalled the golden mask, still secure under its glass dome in the foyer, or so it seemed. Poirot's instincts whispered of deception, and he resolved to inspect the artifact again before the evening's end. A soft cough interrupted his thoughts. Monsieur Gustave Renaud, the opera's director, had slipped into the box, his face pale, beneath a sheen of perspiration. "Monsieur Poirot," he whispered, "you received the note, yes? I found a similar one in my office this morning. It spoke of the mask and this phantom." His voice trembled. "What does it mean?" Poirot's eyes gleamed. "It means, monsieur, that someone wishes to unsettle us, or to boast. Tell me, who has access to the mask's display?" Renaud hesitated. "Only myself, the head curator, and a trusted stagehand, Jacques. But the mask is locked, the key kept in my safe. It is impossible to steal." "Impossible," Poirot echoed, his tone dry, "is a word I distrust. Tell me of this Jacques. A quiet man, loyal. He's been with us for years, though." Renaud faltered. "He was seen near the mask's pedestal last night, adjusting the lighting. Routine, he said." Poirot nodded, filing the detail away. "And the curse. You mentioned it in your speech. What do you know?" Renaud's eyes darted to the stage. "Only rumours. The mask's first owner, a soprano in 1875, died tragically after wearing it. Some say it brings ruin to those who claim it. Superstition, surely, but—" He trailed off as the auditorium lights flickered, drawing a gasp from the crowd. Poirot's gaze sharpened. A signal, perhaps? He rose, excusing himself. "Remain vigilant, Monsieur Renaud. The phantom, I suspect, is closer than you think." Descending to the foyer, Poirot approached the mask's pedestal. The golden artifact gleamed untouched, yet something caught his eye. A faint scratch on the glass dome, barely visible. He knelt, examining it closely. "Not a flaw," he murmured, "but a mark of intent." Nearby, a discarded program bore a faint ink smudge, shaped like a musical note. A clue, or mere coincidence, as metronome clicks sounded from the stage, signalling the rehearsal's resumption. Poirot straightened, his mind racing. The phantom's whisper had set the stage, but Poirot, with his meticulous precision, would ensure the curtain fell on the truth. Chapter 3. The Diva's Disdain. The dressing-room of Madame Claire Duval was a shrine to her own magnificence. Mirrors lined the walls, reflecting vases of roses, silk gowns, and a vanity cluttered with powders and perfumes. Hercule Poirot stood at the threshold, his polished shoes sinking into the plush carpet, as the prima donna fixed him with a stare as sharp as her soprano's highest note. The air carried the faint scent of jasmine, and something else, a whiff of unease. Madame Duval, Poirot began, bowing slightly. I am Hercule Poirot, and I seek your assistance in a matter most delicate, the golden opera mask. Her laugh was a crystalline trill, but it held no warmth. Assistance? From me? Monsieur, I sing, I enchant. I do not meddle in mysteries. She turned to her mirror, adjusting a diamond hairpin, though her reflection betrayed a flicker of curiosity. Poirot's moustache twitched. Yet, madame, you are the heart of this opera house. Who better to notice the shadows that move behind the curtain? He stepped closer, his voice soft but probing. The note from the so-called phantom. Does it stir any recognition in you? Claire's hand paused mid-gesture, her eyes meeting his in the mirror. Phantom? Pfft! A childish prank to unsettle the weak-minded. I have no time for such nonsense. Her tone was dismissive, but her fingers tightened around a silver hairbrush. Perhaps, Poirot said, his gaze sweeping the room. Yet the mask is a treasure, and treasures attract envy. Tell me, what do you know of its history? She waved a hand, as if swatting a fly. Only what everyone knows. Some old tale of a cursed soprano, dead long before my time. I care for the stage, not dusty legends. Her eyes narrowed. You waste your time here, monsieur. If you seek culprits, look to that little upstart, Sophie Leroux. She's always skulking about, dreaming of my spotlight. Poirot noted the venom in her voice, the rivalry between the prima donna and the young soprano. Mademoiselle Sophie Leroux was no secret. But Claire's accusation felt too eager. Mademoiselle Leroux, he mused, is ambitious, oui. But ambition alone does not a thief make. Have you seen anything unusual near the mask's display? Claire hesitated, then shrugged. Nothing. I avoid that gaudy relic. It's bad luck. Her words were casual, but Poirot's keen eyes caught a glint beneath her vanity. A scrap of paper, half hidden by a powder box, bearing the same elegant script as the phantom's note. He moved subtly, as if admiring a bouquet, and glimpsed the fragment. Before the final act. His pulse quickened, but he betrayed nothing. Merci, madame, he said, bowing again. Your candour is most illuminating. As he turned to leave, Claire's voice cut through the air. Monsieur Poirot, a word of advice. In this opera house, everyone wears a mask, whether gold or not. Trust no one. Poirot paused at the door, his smile enigmatic. Madam, I trust only the little grey cells, and they are never deceived. He stepped into the corridor, the scrap of paper burning in his mind. Claire Duval knew more than she admitted. Perhaps not the whole truth, but a piece of it. The question was, what role did her disdain play in the phantom's game? The distant strains of a rehearsal aria echoed through the halls, but Poirot's thoughts were elsewhere, piecing together the puzzle of a diva, a mask, and a shadow that called itself the Phantom. Chapter 4. Shadows in the Balcony. The auditorium of the Théâtre de l'Opéra hummed with the controlled chaos of a rehearsal. Singers' voices clashed with the orchestra's swelling chords, while stagehands darted through the wings, adjusting props and ropes. Hercule Poirot sat in the third row, his eyes not on the stage, but on the intricate web of human motives weaving around him. The scrap of paper from Madame Claire Duval's dressing room, bearing the Phantom's script, lay heavy in his thoughts, a puzzle piece yet to find its place. On stage, Mademoiselle Sophie Leroux sang a delicate aria, her voice a contrast to Claire Duval's commanding presence. Poirot noted the young soprano's poise, but also the faint tremor in her hands. Fear, perhaps, or something more. His musings were interrupted by a sudden, sickening groan from above. A collective gasp rose as a massive chandelier, suspended over the auditorium, lurched downward, its crystals jangling like a death knell. Mon Dieu! Poirot sprang to his feet, his voice cutting through the panic. Everyone, to the sides! The crowd scattered, and with a thunderous crash, the chandelier halted mere feet above a stagehand, Jacques, who stood frozen, clutching a coil of rope. Dust clouded the air, and screams echoed as the rehearsal dissolved into chaos. Poirot moved, swiftly, his calm demeanour a beacon amid the hysteria. He reached Jacques, whose face was ashen. "Monsieur, you are unharmed?" he asked, his tone steady. Jacques nodded, trembling. I was adjusting the backdrop ropes. It just fell." His eyes darted to the balcony above, where the chandelier's mooring had given way. Poirot's gaze followed, his mind racing. "An accident," he murmured. "No, the little grey cells protest." He climbed the narrow stairs to the balcony, ignoring the protests of Monsieur Gustave Renaud, who trailed behind, wringing his hands. "Monsieur Poirot, this is a disaster. The chandelier was inspected last week." Renaud's voice cracked. "Is this the Phantom's doing?" Poirot did not reply, his attention fixed on the balcony's rigging. The rope securing the chandelier had been cleanly cut, not frayed, a deliberate act. Nearby, a smudge of grease marked the railing, and a faint metallic glint caught his eye. He knelt, retrieving a small ornate key, its design intricate, like the filigree of the golden mask. "Curieux," he whispered, pocketing it. His inspection was interrupted by a creak from the wall. Poirot's sharp eyes traced a hairline seam in the panelling, barely visible. With a gentle push, the panel swung inward, revealing a narrow passage, its air damp and musty. Cobwebs clung to the walls, but fresh footprints marred the dust on the floor. "A secret way," Poirot said softly, "and one recently used." Renaud gaped. "A passage? I knew of no such thing." "Yet someone did," Poirot replied, his tone dry. He stepped back, closing the panel. "This opera house, it seems, holds more than music in its shadows." As the rehearsal resumed under strained whispers, Poirot's mind churned. The cut rope, the key, the passage, all pointed to a plan far bolder than a mere theft. The Phantom, whoever they were, was playing a dangerous game, and the golden mask was at its heart. Poirot straightened his tie, his resolve hardening. "The shadows may hide you for now," he murmured, "but Hercule Poirot sees through the dark." Chapter 5. The Patron's Gambit. The grand ballroom of the Théâtre de l'Opéra shimmered with decadence, its walls draped in crimson silk and its chandeliers casting a warm glow over the gala's guests. The air buzzed with laughter, the clink of champagne flutes, and the strains of a string quartet. Hercule Poirot, impeccable in his black tie, moved through the crowd with the precision of a chess master, his eyes fixed on Lord Reginald Ashford, the opera's chief benefactor. The small, ornate key from the balcony, still tucked in Poirot's pocket, whispered of secrets, and Ashford, he sensed, held a piece of the puzzle. Lord Ashford stood near a marble fountain, his silver hair gleaming as he conversed with a cluster of admirers. His tailored suit and easy charm masked a calculating gaze that lingered too often on the golden mask, still secure in its glass dome at the room's centre. Poirot had observed him earlier, during the chandelier incident, noting how Ashford's calm demeanour contrasted with the panic around him. "A man who expects chaos," Poirot murmured, "is rarely surprised by it." Approaching with a disarming smile, Poirot bowed. "Lord Ashford, a pleasure. Hercule Poirot, at your service. Your generosity to this opera house is the talk of Paris." Ashford's lips curved, but his eyes were guarded. "Monsieur Poirot, your reputation precedes you. I merely ensure art endures. The mask, for instance, a treasure worth preserving, don't you think?" "Indeed," Poirot replied, his tone light. "Yet treasures attract thieves. This phantom, with their threats, do they trouble you?" Ashford's smile tightened. "A theatrical jest, nothing more. The mask is safe, and I've ensured additional security." He gestured to two burly men stationed near the pedestal, their eyes scanning the crowd. Poirot nodded, but his mind churned. Ashford's confidence felt rehearsed, and the key in his pocket suggested access beyond the official guards. "The mask's history," he ventured, "is most intriguing. A scandal, I hear, from 1875. Were you acquainted with its original owner?" A flicker crossed Ashford's face, gone in an instant. "That was before my time, monsieur. I know only what the archives say. A soprano's tragedy, nothing more." He sipped his champagne, but his hand betrayed a slight tremor. Poirot's moustache twitched. "Curieux. The archives, they are selective, no? Yet whispers persist of a betrayal, tied to the mask, a lover, perhaps, or a rival." Ashford's gaze hardened. "Whispers are cheap, Poirot. If you seek answers, look to the living, not ghosts." He excused himself, moving toward Madame Claire Duval, who greeted him with a coy smile. Poirot watched them, his little grey cells, at work. Ashford's deflection was too swift, his interest in the mask too intense. Later, in a quiet corner of the gala, Poirot overheard a stagehand mention Ashford's recent visits to the opera's archives, specifically requesting documents from 1875. A coincidence? Poirot thought not. As the quartet struck a waltz, Poirot slipped into the foyer, where the mask gleamed under its dome. He examined the pedestal, noting a faint indentation near the lock, as if the key he carried might fit. Before he could test it, a shadow moved in the corridor, a figure in a dark cloak, gone before he could pursue. The phantom, or another player in this intricate game? Returning to the gala, Poirot's resolve strengthened. Ashford's gambit was clear. He played a role beyond mere patron. But what was his stake in the mask, and how did it tie to the scandal of decades past? The night was young, and Poirot, with his unerring instinct, would not rest until the truth danced into the light. Chapter 6. The Composer's Coda. The attic studio of Monsieur Émile Laurent, tucked high above the Théâtre de l'Opéra, was a realm of shadows and sound. Sheets of music littered the floor, their margins scrawled with frantic notes, while a grand piano loomed like a silent sentinel. Hercule Poirot, guided by a nervous stagehand, stepped into the dimly lit space, his polished shoes clicking against the worn floorboards. The air was thick with the scent of ink and old parchment, and Poirot's keen senses detected something else, a faint undercurrent of obsession. Laurent, a gaunt figure with wild hair and eyes like burning coals, sat hunched over a manuscript, his pen scratching furiously. He barely acknowledged Poirot's arrival, muttering, "The coda! It must resolve, it must!" The composer's latest opera, L'Ombre d'Or, was set to premiere alongside the mask's unveiling, and whispers among the staff suggested its score held secrets tied to the golden relic. Monsieur Laurent, Poirot began, his voice smooth as velvet. "I am Hercule Poirot, and I seek to understand the heart of this opera house, its music, its mysteries. Your work, I hear, is entwined with the golden opera mask." Laurent's pen froze, and he turned, his gaze piercing. "The mask," he rasped, "is no mere ornament. It sings, monsieur, to those who listen. It holds power, power to create, to destroy." His voice trembled with fervour, and Poirot noted the feverish glint in his eyes. "Power?" Poirot tilted, his head, his moustache twitching. "You speak of the curse, perhaps? Or something more tangible?" Laurent rose, pacing like a caged animal. "Curse, myth, truth, what does it matter? The mask belonged to her, to Céleste Vionnet, the soprano of 1875. Her voice was divine, but it was silenced, betrayed." He gestured to a faded portrait on the wall, a woman with haunting eyes, her face half covered by a golden mask. "I hear her in my dreams, guiding my music." Poirot's interest sharpened. Céleste Vionnet, the mask's first owner, was a thread running through the mystery, mentioned by Ashford, hinted at in Claire Duval's dismissal. "And your opera," he said, "does it tell her story?" Laurent's laugh was sharp, almost manic. "It tells everything. The score? It's a map, a confession. But only the worthy will understand." He thrust a page of sheet music at Poirot, its notes interspersed with cryptic symbols, circles, crescents, and lines that resembled the mask's filigree. Poirot studied the page, his little grey cells whirring. The symbols were no mere decoration. They formed a pattern, perhaps a code. "These markings," he said, "they are unusual. What do they signify?" Laurent snatched the page back, clutching it to his chest. "They are hers, Celeste's voice, her pain. You think this phantom is a man? No, it is her spirit, guarding the mask." His voice rose, then broke. "Leave me, monsieur. The coda is not yet complete." Poirot bowed, unruffled. "Merci, Monsieur Laurent. Your passion is most illuminating." As he descended the creaking stairs, the composer's words echoed in his mind. Laurent's obsession bordered on madness. but madness often cloaked truth. The symbols in the score were a clue, one Poirot would unravel. In the corridor below, he paused, recalling the cloaked figure glimpsed at the gala. Was Laurent's talk of spirits mere delusion? Or did someone exploit his fixation to fuel the phantom's myth? The key from the balcony, still in his pocket, seemed to pulse with possibility. The mask's song, it seemed, was growing louder, and Poirot was determined to decipher its melody before the final note. Chapter 7. The Masked Interlude. The Théâtre de l'Opéra's grand ballroom swirled with a kaleidoscope of masks and silks. The masquerade ball transforming the elite into a tableau of anonymity. Feathers and sequins glinted under the chandeliers, and the air thrummed with laughter and the lilting notes of a waltz. Hercule Poirot, clad in a simple black domino mask, stood at the edge of the revelry, his keen eyes piercing the disguises. The golden opera mask, still under its glass dome at the room's heart, seemed to watch the chaos with silent menace, and Poirot, ever vigilant, sensed the phantom's hand hovering near. The cryptic symbols in Émile Laurent's score lingered, in his mind their pattern unresolved. The ornate key from the balcony, now a constant weight in his pocket, whispered of access to secrets, perhaps to the mask itself. Tonight, Poirot knew, was no mere celebration. It was the stage for the phantom's promised act. As the orchestra swelled, Poirot's gaze tracked the key players. Madame Claire Duval, resplendent in a peacock-feathered mask, danced with Lord Reginald Ashford, their steps polished but their whispers tense. Mademoiselle Sophie Leroux, her face hidden by a delicate silver mask, lingered near the musicians, her posture alert. Monsieur Gustave Renaud flitted nervously among the guests, his jester's mask ill-suited to his anxious demeanour, and Jacques, the stagehand, moved through the crowd with trays of champagne, his plain leather mask doing little to conceal his watchful eyes. A sudden hush fell as the lights dimmed, a spotlight illuminating the mask's pedestal. Renaud stepped forward, his voice trembling. "Ladies and gentlemen, behold the golden opera mask, our treasure and our muse." The crowd applauded, but Poirot's attention snapped to a flicker of movement. A cloaked figure, masked in black velvet, slipping behind a velvet curtain near the pedestal. In that instant, a sharp crack echoed, and the glass dome shattered, shards glittering like fallen stars. The golden mask vanished into the folds of the cloaked figure's cape as they darted toward a side exit. Gasps turned to screams, and the crowd surged, blocking Poirot's path. "Arrêtez!" Poirot called, weaving through the chaos with surprising agility. His eyes locked on the figure, but they melted into the throng, their cloak discarded on the floor. Poirot reached the exit, finding only a narrow corridor and a faint scent of jasmine. Claire Duval's perfume, or a deliberate misdirection. Returning to the ballroom, Poirot's mind raced. The theft was bold, theatrical, yet meticulously planned. He scanned the crowd, noting Sophie Leroux's absence during the chaos. Suspicion flared, and he approached her as she reappeared. Her silver mask slightly askew, a bead of sweat on her brow. "Mademoiselle Leroux," Poirot said, his tone deceptively mild. "You were not among the guests when the mask was taken. Where were you?" Sophie's eyes widened, but her voice was steady. I felt faint and stepped into the corridor for air. I saw nothing, monsieur." her hands twisted in her gown, betraying her calm. Poirot nodded, unconvinced. Curieux, the air, it seems, was most eventful. He let her go, but his little grey cells catalogued her reaction. Sophie was a suspect, but the jasmine scent and the cloaked figure's grace suggested a broader conspiracy. As the guests dispersed, Poirot examined the shattered dome. A tiny scrap of black velvet clung to a jagged edge, and nearby a single, musical note was scratched into the pedestal, a symbol from Laurent's score. The phantom had struck, but their trail was already fading. Poirot straightened, his resolve unshaken. "A fine performance," he murmured, "but the encore, it belongs to Hercule Poirot." Chapter 8. Echoes of the Past. The archives of the Théâtre de l'Opéra were a labyrinth of dust and memory, their shelves sagging under the weight of yellowed programmes, faded costumes, and forgotten scores. Hercule Poirot, a solitary figure, in the flickering lamplight, navigated the narrow aisles with purpose. The theft of the golden mask at the masquerade ball had sharpened his resolve, and the clues, Sophie's absence, the jasmine scent, the musical symbol from Laurent's score, pointed to a deeper truth. To unravel the phantom's game, Poirot knew he must first understand the mask's origins, buried in the shadows of 1875. His visit to the archives was prompted by Lord Ashford's evasive mention of a scandal, and Émile Laurent's fevered references to Celeste Vionnet, the soprano tied to the mask's curse. Poirot had secured permission from a reluctant Monsieur Gustave Renaud, who warned that the records from that era were incomplete, lost to time or mischief. Yet Poirot, with his unerring faith in order, believed the past always left traces. He began with a leather-bound ledger from 1875, its pages brittle but legible. Celeste Vionnet's name appeared frequently, her performances as the opera's star lauded in florid prose. But a curious entry caught his eye, a donation of the golden mask by an anonymous patron, accompanied by a note that the gift was for Celeste alone. Poirot's moustache twitched. "A gift so specific," he murmured, "is rarely without motive." His search led to a locked cabinet, which the ornate key from the balcony, still in his pocket, opened with a satisfying click. Inside he found a small velvet-lined box containing a journal, its cover embossed with a crescent moon, one of the symbols from Laurent's score. The journal belonged to Celeste Vionnet, its entries a mix of poetic musings and cryptic warnings. Poirot read by lamplight, his little grey cells alight. "The mask is my crown, but also my chain," Celeste wrote in 1875. "They watch me, the Order of the Crescent, their eyes hidden behind smiles. He promised me eternity, but I see only betrayal." Later entries grew frantic. "The mask must be hidden, or it will destroy us all. Forgive me, my love, for what I must do." The final page bore a single line. "The phantom knows." Poirot closed the journal, his mind racing. The Order of the Crescent? A secret society, perhaps, tied to the opera house. The mention of betrayal echoed the whispers of a lover or rival, possibly the anonymous patron. And the phantom? Had Celeste invented the name, or did it refer to a real figure, now resurrected in the present? A faint creak broke his reverie. Poirot extinguished his lamp, his senses alert. Footsteps, soft but deliberate, approached from the archive's entrance. He slipped the journal into his coat and retreated behind a shelf, peering through the gloom. A figure in a hooded cloak paused at the cabinet, their gloved hands searching where the journal had been. Finding nothing, they muttered a curse and vanished as swiftly as they had come. Poirot emerged, his pulse steady. "The phantom, or their agent," he whispered. The journal was a key to the mask's theft, and someone else sought its secrets. He considered Lord Ashford's interest in the archives, Claire Duval's jasmine scent, and Sophie's absence during the theft. Each was a thread, but the pattern remained elusive. As he left the archives, the opera house's silence felt heavy with echoes of Celeste's words. The golden mask was more than a relic. It was a catalyst, drawing old betrayals into the present. Poirot's resolve hardened. "The past," he said softly, "is a stage, and I, Hercule Poirot, shall light its shadows." Chapter 9. The Understudy's Ambition. The rehearsal stage of the Théâtre de l'Opéra glowed under soft gaslights, its emptiness amplifying the delicate notes of Mademoiselle Sophie Leroux's voice. She sang a solo from L'Ombre d'Or, her tone pure but laced with a quiet intensity that drew Hercule Poirot's attention. Seated in the shadowed stalls, he watched her closely, his mind weaving together the threads of the mystery: the stolen golden mask, Celeste Vionnet's journal, and the cloaked figure in the archives. Sophie's absence during the masquerade theft and her nervous demeanour afterward had elevated her from a peripheral figure to a suspect, and Poirot intended to uncover why. The journal's mention of the Order of the Crescent and a betrayal in 1875 lingered in his thoughts, as did the musical symbols from Émile Laurent's score. But Sophie, with her meteoric rise from understudy to featured soprano, was an anomaly in this drama. Her ambition, so evident in her rivalry with Madame Claire Duval, hinted at deeper motives. "Ambition," Poirot murmured, "is a flame that warms or consumes. Which is it, mademoiselle?" As the rehearsal ended, Poirot approached the stage, his manner disarming. "Mademoiselle Leroux, a moment, s'il vous plaît. Your performance, it is exquisite. Hercule Poirot is most impressed." Sophie's smile was hesitant, her silver-grey eyes wary. "Merci, Monsieur Poirot, I am honoured." She smoothed her rehearsal gown, her fingers betraying a slight tremble. Poirot tilted his head, his voice gentle but probing. "Your rise, it is remarkable. From understudy to star in mere months. Tell me, what inspires such determination?" Sophie's gaze flickered to the wings, where a stagehand lingered. "Jacques," Poirot noted, "ever present. Hard work, monsieur," she said softly, "and a desire to prove myself. Madame Duval casts a long shadow." "Indeed," Poirot replied, his eyes narrowing. "Yet shadows can hide many things. During the masquerade, when the mask was stolen, you were absent. A moment of faintness, you said. Curious, non?" Her cheeks flushed, but she held his gaze. "I was unwell, as I told you. The crowd, the heat, it overwhelmed me. I stepped into the corridor, nothing more." Poirot nodded, unconvinced. "And the golden mask, does it hold meaning for you? Its history, perhaps, or its curse?" Fastidious lips parted, then closed. "Only as a symbol of the opera's legacy," she said carefully. "I know the stories, Celeste Vionnet, her tragedy, but they are just stories." Her words were measured, but Poirot's keen senses detected a falter. He changed tack, gesturing to a locket at her throat. Its design, a subtle crescent moon, a symbol from Celeste's journal. "A charming trinket," he said. "A family heirloom?" Sophie's hand flew to the locket, her voice sharp. "It was my mother's. It means nothing." She stepped back, her composure fraying. "Forgive me, monsieur. I must prepare for the next rehearsal." As she hurried off, Poirot's moustache twitched. The locket's crescent was no coincidence. It tied Sophie to the Order of the Crescent, however distantly. He recalled a line from Celeste's journal. "My love, forgive me." Could Sophie be a descendant, or was she entangled in a modern echo of that betrayal? Later, in the props room, Poirot found a discarded rehearsal schedule with Sophie's initials scrawled beside a note. "Meet J. Midnight, Crypt." Jacques again, or another J. The Crypt, a rumoured sub-level of the opera house, aligned with the hidden passage he'd discovered. Sophie's ambition, it seemed, extended beyond the stage. Poirot straightened, his resolve firm. "Mademoiselle Leroux," he whispered, "your mask is slipping, and Hercule Poirot sees the truth beneath." The golden mask's theft was a thread in a larger tapestry, and Sophie, willingly or not, was woven into its design. Chapter 10. The trap in the tunes, the Théâtre de l'Opéra's foyer, usually a haven of elegance, thrummed with a different energy this evening. A carefully staged deception. Hercule Poirot, immaculate in his evening suit, stood near the pedestal where the golden mask had once rested, now replaced by a convincing replica under a new glass dome. The stolen mask remained elusive, but Poirot, with his little grey cells in overdrive, had devised a plan. A fake auction, announced discreetly to the opera's inner circle, to flush out the phantom. The bait was irresistible, and Poirot was certain the thief would bite. The room buzzed with a select group of guests: Lord Reginald Ashford, Madame Claire Duval, Mademoiselle Sophie Leroux, Monsieur Gustave Renaud, and a handful of wealthy patrons, all under the pretence of bidding on the recovered mask. Poirot's eyes scanned their faces, noting Ashford's clenched jaw, Claire's forced smile, and Sophie's fidgeting hands, her crescent locket glinting in the chandelier light. Jacques, the stagehand, hovered at the edges, his presence as unobtrusive as ever. "Messieurs et mesdames," Poirot began, his voice commanding attention, "the golden opera mask, a treasure of legend, is before you. Tonight it seeks a new guardian. But beware, the phantom watches." His words were deliberate, a challenge to the unseen enemy. As bids were called, none genuine, all part of the ruse, Poirot's attention drifted to a piano in the corner, where a musician played a soft rendition of L'Ombre d'Or, Émile Laurent's opera. The score, with its cryptic symbols, had haunted Poirot since his encounter with the composer. He had spent hours decoding the crescent moons and musical notes, and a breakthrough had come that morning. The symbols, when aligned with the opera's libretto, formed a message. The mask lies where the crescent falls. The crescent, Poirot deduced, referred to the Order of the Crescent from Celeste Vionet's journal, and the fall suggested a hidden location, perhaps the crypt noted in Sophie's schedule. But the score held another clue, buried in its final coda, a sequence of notes that, when translated to letters, spelled Rashford. Lord Reginald Ashford, the opera's benefactor, was no mere bystander. He was the mastermind, or so the music claimed. Poirot's trap was twofold: the auction to provoke action, and a planted rumour that he had deciphered the score's code, hoping to force Ashford's hand. As the bidding reached a crescendo, a sudden blackout plunged the foyer into darkness. Gasps filled the air, followed by a scuffle near the pedestal. When the lights flickered back, the replica mask was gone, and a note lay in its place, scrawled in the phantom script: "The crescent falls tonight. You lose, Poirot." Chaos erupted, but Poirot's calm held firm. He noted Sophie's absence, again, and Ashford's too convenient outrage. "Thieves!" Ashford bellowed, but his eyes darted to the piano, where the score lay open. Poirot moved swiftly, pocketing the note, but a sharp pain grazed his arm, a thrown blade narrowly missing its mark. The crowd's panic masked the attacker's escape, and Poirot, clutching his sleeve, felt a rare surge of alarm. The trap had sprung, but he was the prey. Regaining composure, he whispered, "The crypt. It ends there." The note's mention of the crescent confirmed his suspicions, and Ashford's coded name in the score pointed to his involvement. But Sophie's repeated absences and the jasmine scent from the theft suggested a conspiracy, not a lone actor. The phantom had outmaneuvered him, for now. As the guests dispersed, Poirot's resolve hardened. The golden mask was more than a prize. It was a key to a legacy of betrayal, and the crypt held its final secret. "You play boldly, mon ami," he murmured, "but Hercule Poirot does not lose at chess." Chapter 11. The Phantom's Final Act. The catacombs beneath the Théâtre de l'Opéra were a maze of damp stone and flickering shadows, their air heavy with the scent of earth and secrets. Hercule Poirot descended the narrow spiral staircase, his lantern casting a frail glow against the walls. The note from the failed auction, "The crescent falls tonight. You lose, Poirot," burned in his mind, as did the coded message in Émile Laurent's score, implicating Lord Reginald Ashford. The crypt, mentioned in Sophie Leroux's note, was the final stage, and Poirot was determined to unmask the phantom before the curtain fell. The graze on his arm from the thrown blade ached, a reminder of the danger closing in. His little grey cells churned, weaving together the clues. Celeste Viennet's journal, the Order of the Crescent, Sophie's crescent locket, and the jasmine scent tying Claire Duval to the theft. Ashford's name in the score suggested he was the mastermind, but Sophie's absences and Jacques' omnipresence hinted at a broader conspiracy. "A chessboard with too many queens," Poirot murmured, his resolve unshaken. The staircase opened into a vaulted chamber, its walls etched with faded musical notes and crescent moons, the symbols from Laurent's score. At the centre stood a stone altar, and atop it, gleaming in the lantern's light, was the golden opera mask. Poirot's pulse quickened. "The crescent falls," he whispered, recalling the note. This was the place. A soft laugh echoed, chilling in its familiarity. From the shadows emerged a cloaked figure, their black velvet mask glinting with menace. "You're persistent, Poirot," they said, their voice distorted but unmistakably. cultured, but the mask is mine, and the Order's legacy with it." Poirot raised his lantern, his voice steady. "The Phantom at last? Or should I say, Lord Ashford?" He stepped closer, testing his theory. "The score named you, and your obsession with the mask betrays you." The figure froze, then laughed again, pulling off the mask to reveal, not Ashford, but Mademoiselle Sophie Leroux. Her silver-grey eyes burned with defiance, her crescent locket gleaming at her throat. "Ashford is a pawn, Poirot," she said, "a greedy fool who thought he could control the Order's secrets. I am Celeste's heir. Her blood, the mask, belongs to me." Poirot's moustache twitched, his mind adjusting the puzzle. "Celeste Viernet's descendant, we? The journal spoke of betrayal, and you seek to right it. But why steal? Why the Phantom's guise?" Sophie's voice hardened. "The Order of the Crescent swore to protect the mask, but they betrayed Celeste, stole her legacy. I reclaimed it to restore her honor, and to wield its power." She gestured to the mask, her eyes feverish. "It holds secrets, Poirot. Wealth, influence, hidden in its filigree." Before Poirot could respond, a second figure lunged from the shadows. Jacques, his face twisted with desperation. "Enough, Sophie!" he shouted, a knife in his hand. "You promised me a share." The stagehand's loyalty, it seemed, was to himself. Poirot seized the moment, darting toward the altar as Sophie and Jacques grappled. He grabbed the mask, but Sophie broke free, shoving Jacques into the altar and sprinting into a side tunnel. "You'll never leave here, Poirot," she called, her voice echoing. Poirot gave chase, his lantern bobbing as he navigated the twisting passages. The mask was heavy in his coat, its filigree pressing against his side. Sophie's footsteps faded, but a faint jasmine scent, Claire, Duval's perfume, lingered, suggesting another player in the crypt. Was Claire involved, or had Sophie used her scent as misdirection? The tunnel opened into a dead end, where Sophie stood, trapped, her knife gleaming. "Give me the mask," she hissed, "or we both perish." Poirot's voice was calm, his eyes piercing. "Mademoiselle, your ambition blinds you. The mask's power is a myth, a lure for the greedy. Surrender, and I shall ensure justice, not vengeance." Sophie hesitated, her resolve wavering. In that moment, Poirot's lantern caught a glint, a tripwire at her feet, rigged to collapse the tunnel. "Step forward, carefully," he urged. She obeyed, trembling, and Poirot disarmed her, his mind racing. Jacques, Claire, Ashford, the web was vast, but Sophie was its heart. As he led her back to the surface, the mask secure, Poirot knew the final act awaited. The Phantom's identity was revealed, but the Order's secrets and the true mastermind remained in the shadows. Chapter 12. The Curtain Falls. The grand auditorium of the Théâtre de l'Opéra stood in solemn silence, its velvet seats empty save for a small, tense gathering on the stage. Hercule Poirot, poised at the centre, commanded the scene like a maestro, the golden opera mask gleaming on a table beside him. The suspects, Lord Reginald Ashford, Madame Claire Duval, Mademoiselle Sophie Leroux, Monsieur Gustave Renaud, and Jacques the stagehand, faced him, their expressions a mix of dread, defiance and curiosity. The catacombs confrontation had unmasked Sophie as the Phantom, But Poirot knew the truth was a tapestry woven from greed, betrayal, and hidden legacies. Mesdames et messieurs, Poirot began, his voice resonant. The mystery of the EN, Golden Opera Mask, is no mere theft, but a drama of human passions, played out across decades. Tonight, Hercule Poirot shall reveal the final act. He paced, his eyes sweeping the group. The mask, stolen during the masquerade, was the prize of the so-called phantom, whose threats haunted this opera house. Mademoiselle Leroux, you confessed, in the catacombs claiming descent from Celeste Vionnet and the Order of the Crescent. You believed the mask held secrets of wealth and power, oui? Sophie, pale but composed, nodded. It was my birthright. Celeste was betrayed, her legacy stolen. I sought to reclaim it. Poirot's moustache twitched. A noble motive, perhaps, but incomplete. The mask's filigree, as I discovered, conceals no treasure, only a cipher. A list of names, members, of the Order, long dead. Its power was a myth, exploited to manipulate you. He turned to Ashford, whose face was a mask of calm. Lord Ashford, the score of L'Ombre d'Or named you, encoded in its notes. You funded this opera house, but your true aim was the mask, was it not? Ashford's jaw tightened. Preposterous. I am a patron of art, nothing more. Non, Poirot countered, producing Celeste's journal. This journal, found in the archives, speaks of a betrayal in 1875. Celeste's lover, a wealthy Englishman, promised her the mask, but used it to control the Order's influence. His initials, R.A., match yours, Lord Ashford. Reginald Ashford, descendant of that same man. You sought the mask to reclaim that influence, using Sophie as your pawn. The audience gasped, but Poirot pressed on, turning to Claire Duval. Madame, Duval, your jasmine scent was a clever misdirection, planted by Sophie to implicate you. But you too played a role. Your disdain for Sophie masked jealousy, and you spied on her, hoping to sabotage her rise. The scrap of the phantom's note in your dressing room? You kept it, suspecting her, but said nothing to protect your own. Secrets! Claire's eyes flashed, but she remained silent. Poirot faced Jacques next. Monsieur Jacques, you were Sophie's accomplice, lured by promises of wealth. Your sabotage of the chandelier was meant to distract, but your greed led you to betray her in the catacombs. Jacques slumped, guilt etched on his face. Finally, Poirot addressed Renaud. Monsieur Renaud, your nerves were genuine, but your ignorance of the crypt and archives was not. You knew of the Order's history, but feared its exposure would ruin the opera house. Renaud stammered, I only wanted to protect our legacy. Poirot raised a hand, silencing him. The true mastermind, however, was not Sophie nor Jacques, but Lord Ashford. He revived the phantom's myth, planting notes to unsettle us, and manipulated Sophie's heritage to orchestrate the theft. The trap in the crypt, its tripwire, was his design, meant to silence her and me. But Hercule Poirot does not fall so easily. He lifted the mask, its golden surface catching the light. The mask's cipher names no living souls, only ghosts. Its theft was a gambit for power, fueled by Ashford's ambition and Sophie's vengeance. The Order of the Crescent is no more, its secrets dust. Ashford's composure cracked. You have no proof, he spat, but Poirot produced a letter, found in the archives bearing Ashford's family seal and confessing the 1875 betrayal. The curtain falls. Poirot said softly, "Lord Ashford, you shall answer to justice, as shall Sophie and Jacques. The mask returns to the opera house, a relic of art, not greed." As the suspects were led away, Poirot lingered, his gaze on the mask. The auditorium's silence felt like applause, a testament to the triumph of his little grey cells. The mystery was solved, but its echoes would linger, as all great performances do. Chapter 13. The Encore of Truth. The Café de la Paix, nestled in the heart of Paris, basked in the golden light of a May afternoon in 1925. Hercule Poirot sat at his favourite table, a cup of café noir before him, his moustache impeccably groomed. The bustle of the city faded as he reflected on the mystery of the golden opera mask, now resolved but still resonant in his mind. The Théâtre de l'Opéra, with its secrets and shadows, had been a stage worthy of his little grey cells, and the case's echoes lingered like a haunting area. The auditorium confrontation had unravelled the tangled web. Lord Reginald Ashford, the mastermind, now faced justice for orchestrating the theft to reclaim his ancestors' influence over the Order of the Crescent. Mademoiselle Sophie Leroux, driven by her heritage and vengeance for Celeste Vionnet, awaited trial, her ambition extinguished. Jacques, the greedy stagehand, had confessed his role in the chandelier sabotage, sealing his fate. Madame Claire, Duval, cleared of theft but humbled by her jealousy, had retreated from the spotlight, while Monsieur Gustave Renaud vowed to restore the opera house's honour. Poirot sipped his coffee, his thoughts drifting to the mask itself, now returned to the opera house's archives under strict security. Its filigree cipher, naming long-dead members of the order, held no modern power, yet its allure had fueled a conspiracy spanning decades. A mask, he mused, is but a mirror, reflecting the desires of those who gaze upon it. A minor thread nagged at him, Émile Laurent, the reclusive composer whose score had encoded Ashford's name. Poirot had visited him after the confrontation, finding the man broken. His obsession with Celeste's spirit faded. Laurent admitted to embedding the code not out of malice, but as a tribute to Celeste, whose journal he had once read. "Her voice guided me," he had whispered, and Poirot, ever practical, left him to his music. As he set down his cup, a young waiter approached, delivering a small parcel wrapped in brown paper. "For you, monsieur," he said, vanishing into the crowd. Poirot's eyes narrowed as he unwrapped it, revealing a single sheet of music, its margins adorned with crescent moons. A note in elegant script read, "The mask is safe, but its song continues. Adieu, Poirot." His pulse quickened. The handwriting was not Sophie's nor Ashford's, but bore the same flourish as the phantom's early threats. He examined the music, a fragment of L'Ombre d'Or, and noticed a faint watermark, a crescent moon, identical to Sophie's locket. The order of the crescent, it seemed, had not entirely faded into dust. Poirot leaned back, a faint smile curving his lips. The mask remained in the archives, but this note suggested a guardian, or a new phantom, watched over it. "An encore," he murmured, "for another day." He tucked the sheet into his coat, content to let the mystery rest for now. The truth had been sung, but in the world of Hercule Poirot, Every finale held the promise of a new overture. Rising, he adjusted his hat and stepped into the Parisian sunlight, his little grey cells ever ready for the next performance.